What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, Breakfast with the Canes. It is Sunday. Awesome day of college football yesterday. Enjoyed watching those Bulls as a fan. Not have to worry about, being embarrassed by the Pop-Tart, just enjoying the whole experience, the extravagance, the pomp and circumstance of the Pop-Tarts Bowl was incredible, and all the other bowls. Fun to watch when you're not playing in that pinstripe bowl in the cold. So we'll talk about all that. Of course, getting ready for the real deal, Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. Big recruiting news coming up. Number one player in the country, DJ Jacobs, according to 247, could be announcing very soon. That's what I'm hearing as well. We will talk about that. First, some folks that stay on top. That's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anidjar and Levine. Chat is on fire already. People are fired up this morning. How could you not be with the way that Miami football is rolling? Again, awesome day yesterday watching games. Really didn't start out very well for the ACC. Pitt losing to ECU, which is discouraging considering how much we were worried about Pitt when we played them, right? They were one of our toughest games on paper of the season. You see them lose to East Carolina with their quarterback playing, and I think East Carolina was missing more players than Pitt. So disappointing from that standpoint, ACC-wise. Pitt should have won that game. They were 12, I believe, point favorite. Just did not play very well. Missed a lot of opportunities in that ball game. Then you had the Pinstripe Bowl game, familiar to Canes fans. It looked freezing. It looked terrible to play in. Obviously not what the Cotton Bowl is going to be. Clemson against PSU, Penn State, two of the highest-ranked teams going into the year. A lot of NFL prospects on both teams, although a lot of them didn't play in this game. But kind of glimpse into the future with that one. Clemson, you got to imagine, they'd won some games to finish the year. Dabo was trying to sell the turnaround, maybe try to convince people his method still worked. But with an end like that, I don't think you can just go business as usual in Clemson. The team looked small. It looked untalented. You talk about opt-outs, and I get it. Peter Woods, first-round pick, opting out defensive tackle. TJ Parker, potential first-round pick, opting out at defensive end. Avion Terrell, potential first-round pick, opting out at corner. Brian Wesco has been out with a neck injury. But, as far as the opt-outs, those guys are gone. So, if you're looking at next year's team, this bowl game is going to give you a much clearer picture of what it is. And Clemson just did not look talented. I don't know how else to say it. They haven't recruited at a high level. The recruiting class is consistently ranking that 20 to 30 range. The portal, we know what Dabo does there, which is barely anything to this point. Will Held, pretty good pass rusher, was one of their best players, was out of the portal. But other than that, they've not done a lot in the portal. So you look at that team, I don't see the vision there. On Miami's schedule next year, by the way, we go to Clemson, so that's a huge game for the Canes. You hope Dabo just kind of runs it back and does what he's been doing. But that team that we saw in that Pinstripe Bowl, if you would have changed the helmets and put, I don't know, I don't want to say Boston College because they had a really bad year this year, but just kind of your average run-of-the-mill ACC team, NC State. Honestly, NC State looked more talented to me than Clemson. And I'm being honest. I mean, it was bad. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I could not believe how bad those guys looked. Now, Kevin Dennis noting that TJ Moore, former 5-star wide receiver from Tampa, looked good. Maybe that could be a potential portal acquisition there for somebody. I know the Canes would probably have interest if he jumped in. I don't know that for a fact. I know he was a very big target when he was in high school, and he's played well since he's been in college. Dynamic type of receiver, made plays yesterday. But yeah, overall, that team looked terrible. They had Cade Klubnik at quarterback, didn't matter. So you wonder what their quarterback situation is. To me, that's where, if I were them, I would try to get DJ Lagway. That to me makes the most sense as far as adding a talented quarterback, more physically comparable to guys you maybe had in the past with Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, truly talented players, maybe Taj Boyd to a lesser extent, big guy, similar to Lagway in that way. But to lose that game 22-10 with Cade Klubnik is very embarrassing. Look at the other side with Penn State, Ethan Grunkmeyer. I liked him. This is the quarterback, redshirt freshman who has replaced Drew Aller, has had ups and downs. Obviously, their interim coach, the team's in flux as they transition to Matt Campbell. But I thought this guy was good. I know Rocco Becht from Iowa State. A lot of people think he's going to follow Matt Campbell from Iowa State to Penn State, experienced quarterback's been productive. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But I got to be honest, this Grunkmeyer looked pretty good. I was impressed with his arm. I liked his size. I think he's going to be a good player. Not necessarily a Miami like start next year type of target, but we're talking about guys that I think are underrated. He caught my eye. I wonder what you guys think in the chat, because to me, I saw a good arm. I saw a good size. I saw a good ability to read the field. Again, Clemson was not a tremendous threat on defense, but I thought this guy had showed some tools for a redshirt freshman, still growing in his game. So Clemson is an interesting case study going into our game with them next year. Here, the SDTNL says Tony Elliott and Venables looking like they were the main ingredients. Yeah, we'll talk about Tony Elliott in a second here. But yeah, him winning 11 games with Virginia, an offensive coordinator, former offensive coordinator for Clemson, now head coach of Virginia. Brett Venables has Oklahoma in the playoffs. Both of those teams much better than Clemson this year, if we're talking about just comparing where they went to what they left behind. Kevin Dennis says, North Texas quarterback didn't impress me with Mestamaker. Yeah, I got some North Texas talk coming here soon. But let's get into a tweet. As I warm up the voice here on this Sunday morning. Let's get to a tweet that I thought was very, very interesting. Right? We talked about how the ACC really struggled early on in the day, bounced back a little bit with a big win for Virginia over Missouri. This was a Missouri team that had some players there. They had their powerful running backs. They had their powerful defensive ends. They had Caden Green at offensive line. Really, they didn't have a lot of opt-outs. I mean, their stud players were playing. Quarterback, obviously in transition with the freshman Matt Zollers. But I thought UVA really, on a bad day for the ACC, was extremely impressive. Shout out to Tony Elliott. 11 wins for Tony Elliott. Leaving Clemson, they've fallen off since he's left as offensive coordinator. And Virginia had a horrible tragedy with the shooting involving the team. Deshaun Terry, who local kid, passed away. Just a complete nightmare situation. And they have built this thing up to now 11 wins for Tony Elliott, and a big signature win to me against Missouri, Missouri was in this game. This was not an opt-out game. They had pros all over the field, and Virginia was able to get it done, win that ball game. You look at the stat here from CFB Kings. The ACC is now 6-6 against the SEC this season. They beat number 7 Texas A&M. Of course, that was Miami. Number 9 Alabama, which was Florida State. And then 8-4 Missouri. Miami also beating Florida quite handily. Look at also some of the losses. Virginia Tech, I think, has 2 of those. They were obviously down. Georgia Tech lost to Georgia, but they gave them quite a fight there as a lower ranked team. So ACC and SEC stacking up pretty evenly here. And that's interesting to me when you look at how the ACC's performed against other conferences. And quite frankly, SEC's performed well against other conferences. ACC against Big 12 is 1-7. So I don't know what it is about this particular matchup, ACC versus SEC, that has been favoring the ACC lately. Obviously, there's a lot of different teams, so it depends on the matchup to a certain degree. But Miami 4-0 against the ACC against the SEC when you talk about Florida the last 2 years, and then Texas A&M in 23 and 25. So last 4 games Miami's played against SEC, Miami is 4-0 in those ball games. And really, I believe, aside from the Texas A&M game, which was a windstorm and they had some opportunities, all the other ones were quite comfortable, double-digit wins for Miami. So I don't know what it is about the SEC-ACC matchup. Miami's very much built like an SEC team. You hear that from SEC people. I think that's true. Certainly like an old-school SEC team with their size and physicality. But for whatever reason, Miami has more of a problem with the ACC, right? The Louisvilles, the Georgia Techs, the Syracuse, the SMUs. That's what's giving Miami problems, not these big physical ball clubs. But yeah, shout out to the ACC, or at least Virginia, for representing the rest of the ACC. Didn't do anything there. Clemson dominated South Carolina in Columbia. That's a poor Clemson team. So that's a mark on South Carolina. I know they got Sellers back. They got Dylan Stewart back. They got the Nicholas Harbor, the wide receiver, back, and they did all the pomp and circumstance around that. But to me, I don't know what they're going back to. That's a pretty bad South Carolina team that lost to a bad Clemson team. Yeah, D-Train noticing noting that Cal losing to Hawaii Christmas Eve was embarrassing. There were a lot of embarrassing losses for the ACC, but holding it down against the SEC. Hopefully there's another ACC-SEC matchup next round with Miami beating Ohio State and playing the winner of Ole Miss and Georgia. Georgia Tech, a lot of comments about Georgia Tech. That was electric, that game, man. That was a fun ball game. The Pop-Tart Bowl, the People's National Championship, they've really stepped it up every year and delivered with everything that goes around the game, the human sacrifice, the snackifice of the Pop-Tart. It's a lot more fun when you're watching as a fan than when you're watching it as a disappointed Cane coming off the Syracuse loss and then losing the Pop-Tart Bowl, missing the playoffs. When you're watching it as a playoff contender, man, that Pop-Tart Bowl is electric. Just a lot of fun. The coaches were into it. Shout out to Stocky there at BYU. He was having a lot of fun with it, but it's just an awesome event. And then, of course, the game was really, really good. Two teams that wanted to win, that were playing extremely hard. The pads were popping. Big 12 ACC matchup, which again has favored the Big 12. Georgia Tech really should have won this game, and it would have been a statement against a Big 12 team that was potentially a playoff team a couple weeks ago, but they couldn't get it done. A lot of mental mistakes. Haynes King, man, he missed. You hoped he would have ended it on a better note just for him. I know he's caused a lot of grief to Canes fans, but I wanted to see him, just for what he's done for college football, for the conference, finish with a flourish. He had that beautiful pass on 4th and 15, and then, man, just missed one high. It could have been the game winner. A lot of questionable decisions, I thought, by Brent Key. Brent Key and Mario got a little rivalry. Brent Key's had some bragging rights at different points, but I think right now we know who the king is as far as that rivalry, and the two different programs, with Miami getting ready to play a second-round playoff game. Georgia Tech, where Miami was last year, losing in the Pop-Tart Bowl, but not a lot to show for the Haynes King era when you think about how good he was for Georgia Tech and how much he elevated their program. Brent Key really fumbled away a lot of opportunities. No ACC championship games, no ACC championship appearances. There's certainly no ACC championship wins. Some big wins along the way, but ultimately I think disappointment for the Haynes King era when you consider what he himself did for the team. If you're Brent Key, you just lost Philo to Florida, which was going to be your quarterback in waiting. You're losing Haynes King. You didn't capitalize on that Haynes King era. I don't think you're feeling too good about yourself if you are Brent Key. And look, I wouldn't call Georgia Tech a rival, but they've delivered us some pain over the years. So I was cheering hard for them just as an ACC fan in this game. Again, it was a thrilling game. Bear Bachmeyer for BYU did a really, really nice job. The true freshman. It wasn't a perfect day for him by any means, but I just thought his poise, his ability to process quickly, throws a good ball with anticipation. I'm a Bear Bachmeyer believer. Very well coached program. They did what they needed to do late in the game. Didn't have their running back LJ, who is going to be all Big 12 next year. It's really just an outstanding Pop-Tarts Bowl, man. And there's no question anymore that this is the best bowl besides the playoff bowls, I don't think. If anyone has any comments in there, let me know. But to me, I think that has to be the best secondary bowl, hands down. It's just a lot of fun. Pop-Tart does a great job marketing. I know their numbers go up huge after that game, and it means something. Even last year, you can't say the Pop-Tart Bowl didn't mean anything to the Canes. We were trying to win that thing. We were frustrated at the end of it. At least I certainly was, with the way that one ended, but worked out for the best. Miami hit the portal hard in reaction to not just that game, but the way that season finished, and bounced back. And now we're getting ready to play Cotton Bowl, baby. Let's see what else we got here. Nick West saying, yeah, ACC win would have been nice. I agree. Unfortunately, we don't play Georgia Tech next season. Yeah, that would have been a nice one to play Georgia Tech, get some revenge with the way Miami's roster is cooking right now. Georgia Tech really missed an opportunity this year. Their schedule on paper was one of their easiest that they were going to have as far as in conference, and they still didn't get the job done. Canes come back talking about the Pop-Tarts Bowl, saying it was there last year. It was a great venue. Yeah, I was there last year too. It was a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah, Pop-Tart pays a lot for the game. Yeah, they should pay a lot because they get a lot of good advertising from it. That's the best advertising they get all year. Spend your whole marketing budget making sure you get good teams there. Notre Dame could have been part of that, but they passed on it. They were too good for a fun bowl game. So, they're sitting there at home doing nothing, getting worse. So good job, Notre Dame. I think this has been a disastrous offseason for Notre Dame. Their reputation, obviously, they didn't make the playoffs. They wasted Jeremiah Love completely this season and their great running back duo. A lot of people said this was the most talented team they've had in years. So they wasted that, and they have been sitting home for weeks at the hands of the Miami Hurricanes and the ACC. So, shout out to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and sorry that Notre Dame missed out on it. Sitting at home, getting worse, licking their wounds, watching Miami, or getting ready, I should say, to watch Miami in the second round of the playoffs. Real quick, want to shout out my boys at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, boys and girls at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. If you're an active person, like to play sports on the weekends or during the week, maybe you're in a league, you know how hard it is to come back from pain or injury. Maybe even try to hack your own rehab, come back a little earlier. But if sacrificing your movement and performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's elite performance like the University of Miami Athletics or just everyday movement, the experts at University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute will get you back to playing your best. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. That's uhealthsports.com. What else we got here? Oh, of course. Look, big game for NFL, or big day for NFL here on Sunday. I'm actually going out to the Dolphins game, first Dolphins game in a while. My son really wanted to check him out. So we'll be seeing the Fins. We'll see how that one goes. But if you'd rather watch all the games inside with some TVs, and you don't have to watch the Dolphins game if we're not doing too good, go to Duffy's Tavern right there in the edge of Coral Gables. This is the home of the Miami Hurricanes, 60-plus years serving the Miami community, and they are now taking credit cards. Just look at those walls, man. There is so much history on those walls, so much Hurricane history, so much Miami history. It is the place for Hurricane fans. Had my high school reunion there recently, tons of fantasy drafts, University of Miami Touchdown Club events, University of Miami Booster events, I should say, Touchdown Club events, Canes Connection events. They do it all at Duffy's Tavern. Remember, there's not Duffy's Sports Grill or whatever. This is Duffy's Tavern Sports Grill. Make sure you get that tavern in there so you can separate it from those chains that are just sort of vanilla all over South Florida. This is the real deal, 60-plus years. Duffy's Tavern, the home of the Hurricanes. We got in the comments here. You had LSU going to need another more than a quarterback. Yeah, they are struggling big time, man. LSU is in some rough shape. We'll talk portal in a little bit here. G Nice asking, is it true the ACC crew is calling the game on Wednesday and it'll be led by Jerry Magallanes? I don't think so. I'll find out though, but I don't see that. A lot of portal questions. We are going to get to those portal questions, but first, needed to get into some high school recruiting because the Miami Hurricanes are hot on the trail of one of the absolute best players in America. According to 247, the number one player in America. I believe he is announcing soon based on everything I have heard. And I think the Miami Hurricanes have more than a good shot to land DJ Jacobs, complete freak of nature out of Atlanta, Georgia, 6'5", 210, 215. And this is somebody with just electrifying explosiveness, speed. There you see him blocking kicks, high motor, super professional. Trying to find comparisons for him. You got to think of like an Abdul Carter, a type of player, maybe a little longer at 6'5". Look at the power he plays with. When you watch him, okay, you see him line up 2-point stance. He's got tremendous bend, but look at that power. He also has that power. And that's, I think, the thing that makes him unique at 6'5", 210, that lean type pass rusher. A lot of times these guys are trying to avoid blocks. This guy can go right through. He can just, again, you see he delivers on impact. He's a striker. He can play with power. He can generate that it just this that knockback, which is unusual for someone that size. Then he has all the athletic stuff in terms of get off, the closing speed, the bend, the change of direction, just the overall fluidity. He has that there. You see again the power. There's the change of direction, the ability to finish with the sack. The motor is outstanding. The production is off the charts. And he's just a great young man from all accounts. I interviewed him again. I thought I was talking to like a senior in college, the way he carried himself. His father played for Georgia with Mark Richt, or under Mark Richt, I should say. Mark Richt, very close to the family. And a lot of people had DJ Jacobs earmarked for Georgia. But again, I am hearing, and it's been reported elsewhere as well, that Miami has an extremely good shot to land DJ Jacobs, the number one player in America, according to 247 Sports. It is a very, very real possibility. It could happen sooner than later. And the reasons they're multiple. This guy's been down multiple times on unofficial visits. That helps. He's seen Miami play at an extremely high level. He's seen Miami's defensive ends play at the best level of anybody in the country. Of course, Jason Taylor as a similar build to DJ Jacobs, although I think DJ Jacobs will ultimately be bigger than Taylor as far as weight. But that Hall of Fame credibility appeals to him, especially when you see the results on the field with Bain and Messidor. Just the style of defense, the way Miami's been playing defense. Mario Cristobal, no one's better at relationships. We know that aspect of his skill set when it comes to recruiting as the head coach and the whole operation. All those things have played in Miami's favor. I think with Georgia, number one, Georgia doesn't let their defensive ends loose like this. You look at Georgia's pass rusher. They lost Damon Wilson to Missouri, who is going to be their best pass rusher this year, goes in the portal to Missouri. Georgia Tech's pass rush, probably their biggest weakness all season. It's hard to imagine given the way they can recruit five-star defensive linemen, but the pass rush part, I think they struggle with. They're better at the bigger physical guys who are, look at Trayvon Walker, the way he's rushing the passer for Jacksonville versus the way he rushed the passer at Georgia. Much more of a block eater in Georgia, just being physical, taking on two gaps when needed, really going toe-to-toe with the tackle from a head-up standpoint as opposed to trying to line up wide and get after the quarterback, which you're seeing more at the NFL level. So I think a guy like DJ Jacobs is saying, well, I want to get after the quarterback in college. I don't need to wait till I get to the pros. So I think that's helping Miami there. Also, Georgia's not spending a ton of money on high school kids NIL-wise. So I think that is hurting their pursuit of DJ Jacobs. It hurt them with Cantwell. It hurt them with a lot of guys. They only signed one top 10 player in Georgia last year, from what I understand. So it's not like they are cooking in state, despite being, of course, one of the premier programs in the entire country and still recruiting at a high level. They still get a lot of talent. But I think the in-state players feel that maybe Georgia's not paying for high school kids what other schools, including Miami, are paying. Notre Dame's in this mix with Jacobs, Oregon. I think the top two being Ohio State and Texas A&M. But the smart money, like I said, is on the Miami Hurricanes. Look at his junior stats: 102 tackles, 24 tackles for loss, 16 sacks. Been starting since his freshman year. 292 tackles for his career, 67 tackles for loss, 31 career sacks. The rankings vary on him depending who you're talking to. 247 has him as the number one player in the country. I believe Rivals has him as the number 10 player. Actually, they have him as the number 19 player. ESPN has him number 10. His overall composite rankings in that 9 to 10 range overall in the country, but 247 has him stamped as the number one player. There's not usually a lot of consensus with these things. Cantwell was really high on 3, which is Rivals, lower on 247. This is sort of a reverse situation where 247 higher on Jacobs, Rivals higher on, not as high on him. They were higher on Cantwell, but doesn't really matter. This is an elite player, top 10 player in the country. You saw the film. You know how nasty this guy is at playing football. Actually, let's pull up an interview I did with DJ Jacobs about a month ago. Yeah, it was actually a couple months ago. Real quick one that we ran right there outside the Hecht on his visits. You can get a feel for how he carries himself and just a better feel for the young man.
DJ Jacobs, one of the top players in the class of 2027. DJ, how'd you enjoy your trip down here?
It was awesome, man. I mean, the crowd was electric. I mean, it was just awesome time being down here.
So watching the defense, watching your position, what do you see out there as far as the guys getting after it?
They come off the ball, and I mean, they attack. They don't let anyone stop them. I mean, honestly, they were dominating last night. I won't lie. So yeah.
And just being down here, you're obviously here at the school right now and seeing the whole atmosphere. What caught your eye just throughout this trip?
That the students like staying around on campus, and that means a lot. I mean, when the students like the place, that means it's a good place to be. So I mean, definitely just a good vibe down here, and it was awesome. So yeah.
This is early in your recruiting process. Obviously, everybody in the country's after you. What's your process looking like for the next few months?
Process? I mean, a bunch of recruiting trips, man. Just going to different places. So yeah.
Your senior season, any goals in particular?
Goals? Beat my dad's sack record.
There we go. And for those who haven't seen you play, how would you describe how you get down on the field?
Fast, physical, and just electric on the field, and I hustle. That's probably what I would say.
And as far as Miami in the process, is this a school you see yourself coming back to, either on an unofficial or an official?
Definitely going to try to get back up here, yes, sir.
And just going forward, what you talked about some of the specific things. What impression overall has Miami made in your recruiting process?
Say again.
What the impression overall Miami's made in your recruiting process?
It shows. I mean, it definitely is big. I mean, definitely appreciate them having me out here. It shows that they definitely want me to come back. So I'm definitely going to try and get back up here. So,
and last thing, being with Coach, Coach Taylor and some of the defensive coaches, what was it like just vibing with those guys?
Coach was awesome. I mean, it was awesome just to talk to him. I mean, he was a great guy. I mean, great coaching staff. I mean, great people in the building. So yeah, it was great.
Awesome, man. DJ, thank you. Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
Right now.
There you go, man. So, pretty professional, easy interview. Sometimes those interviews, these kids are young, right? They're not used to just going in front of camera. So kind of have to help them out a little bit because they're just not used to it. This guy, you could tell it's not his first rodeo. His dad played. He said he wanted to beat his dad's sack record. So I think the professionalism that he brings, the just top-down mentorship from not only his dad, Mark Richt, who's very involved with his family, very close with his family. I mean, just an awesome prospect. That's why he's ranked as a 5-star. And when Miami's going into Atlanta, Georgia, getting 5-star Georgia legacy defensive end pass rushers, I mean, we're in business after getting a 5-star offensive tackle from Nixon, Missouri, potentially getting number 2 ranked overall player, Mark Matthews, offensive tackle from St. Thomas, number 1 offensive prospect in the country from St. Thomas Aquinas. I remember when we used to have trouble at St. Thomas. I remember we used to have trouble with South Florida 5-stars. That hasn't really changed, really. This would change big time with a Mark Matthews. So what we're doing here is unbelievable and unprecedented. And you talk about where you want to spend your NIL money. Georgia's not necessarily spending on high school guys. I'm the biggest portal believer in the world, but when you're spending money on offensive linemen and defensive linemen, left tackle, edge rushers, these NFL positions, you get them in high school, man, because once they get to the college level, they don't leave. And if they do jump in the portal and they're good, their numbers are astronomical. And usually you're paying big numbers for guys that aren't that good. You want the really, really good players, you got to get them in high school at those positions, those freaks. I think Cantwell's one, David Jacobs. You look at the track record, Francis Malinois, Ruben Bain, the cornerstones of what is one of the best teams in the country with the Miami Hurricanes trying to win a national championship here in the 2025 season. And like Johnny Lagoon says, Canes Connection is the name of the game. Go to canesconnection.com/CIS and be part of this thing, because when you're talking about a Mark Matthews, number 1 offensive lineman in the country, DJ Jacobs, number 1 defensive end in the country, potentially being Miami Hurricanes, the only way to get that done is canesconnection.com, Miami's official NIL collective, canesconnection.com/CIS. So you got a lot of member benefits. We got a Zoom chat coming up soon. I'm going to schedule it very, very shortly just to give you the latest on the portal and everything else. Obviously, Cotton Bowl being first and foremost with what the staff's concerned about, by recruiting. Portal never stops. canesconnection.com/CIS. We can keep getting players like DJ Jacobs. We'll see where that one goes, but I'm feeling very, very good about where Miami stands heading into the year. But we got a comment I want to get to here. Panhandle Kane, appreciate you. He's deployed, appreciates all the info being provided. Got to get up at 3:0300. If I say that right, I'm screwing up. I'm not good with the military time, but getting up early to watch the game. Go Canes. Appreciate you, Panhandle Kane. Appreciate your service. Appreciate your support. And yeah, man, thank you for allowing us to talk about recruits and watch games and all these other kind of silly things while you're out there protecting the country. So again, appreciate what you do for us. But yeah, man, you talk about this statement. If Miami were to land a DJ Jacobs and a Mark Matthews, who's been crystal ball to Miami, those are arguably the 2 top players in the country, both sides of the line. You start there. Now you are in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall class in the country. And what I always said was, look, Mario, people were like, oh, Mario's not an elite recruiter. He only gets top 10 classes instead of top 3 classes. I mean, I heard Pete not say it so much about Mario, but talk about the elite recruiting. And what I always said was, yes, the numbers are the numbers. If you're finishing 10th and 8th instead of 1st and 2nd, you're recruiting at a very high level, but you're not recruiting at an elite level. But Mario never stopped being an elite recruiter. He never stopped being, in my opinion, the best head coach recruiter in the country. Certainly the most active, most aggressive, most hardworking. The difference is he had to rehabilitate the brand. to get a Ruben Bain and Francis Malinois coming off that Middle Tennessee State debacle, really was coming off the 21 season, and then he had to hold them during that debacle of a season in 2022. Bain actually committed a little later, so he watched that whole terrible season and still came to the Canes. To get those guys in that climate takes serious recruiting. A lot easier now that you are selling Malinois and Bain as test cases. Hey, these guys signed with us when we were nothing, and now look at them. First-round picks, brand name college players, 3-year starters, 3 and done. That's what you want. So Miami, I think, is going to be able to crack into that top tier, top 3 recruiting class range, maybe consistently now at a high school. Not because Mario's a better recruiter now. He's always been the best recruiter, but because he has a better product to sell, or at least a more established product to sell. Mo Hussein, always appreciate you. Says, thank you, Coach Mario. Extend him. He's not going anywhere, my friend. We don't have to worry about that one. Mario is going to be there. But yeah, I think this is a major step forward if you can land a DJ Jacobs, and that could happen very, very soon. If it does happen, we will have an instant reaction. You know, we're going to be going insane for something like that. You don't always get the number 1 player in the country as a defensive end from Atlanta, Georgia, probably the most hotly contested region in the country. When you look at all the SEC schools, Georgia, Clemson, everybody trying to just get in on that Atlanta, Georgia area. Notre Dame recruits down there, but Miami potentially able to get that thing done. Oh, looked like got some. Am I frozen here? Let me see. See if I unfreeze here. Can you guys hear me in the comments? Let me know. Let's see. Hey, am I back? There we go. I'm back. All right. Sorry about that. We're back. We're back in business here. Just did a little tweak. Sunday. I don't got ace producer Pete here in the building, but yeah, man, appreciate you guys sticking with me through that. Shout out to Peeny Boy. Says, I wasn't able to get my permission slip signed for Dallas, but I'm definitely going to our last home game. Hit stick, bust, you know what? Appreciate your support. Yeah, as we get ready for the Cotton Bowl. Always got to shout out my boys at BUZZN Drink, BUZZN. You want to celebrate New Year, celebrate that victory. Don't drink champagne. Get those bubbles all in your brain, because that is the worst hangover on the planet. You want a clean hangover? BUZZN, 7.5 milligrams of THC-infused seltzer. All bubbles, no troubles. All hang, no hangover. Go to drinkbuzzn.com. Use code FIRST50 for your first 35% off the order. You can go to Big Daddy's Liquors. They got these things all stacked and ready to go buy in person if you're in South Florida. That is BUZZN, BUZZN, drink, BUZZN. Also got to shout out my man, talking about Cane supporters. There's no bigger Cane supporter than the ORCHID man, OrchidMan Florida, South Florida's top landscape artisans. If you want a point person for your landscape, residential, commercial, you know who to call. OrchidMan, ORCHID Man Florida, 786-271-0332. I'm sure you've seen these OM trucks if you live anywhere in the Miami-Dade, South Florida region. These things are all over the place. They will be the quarterback of your whole project. All the things you don't want to think about: maintenance, irrigation, hurricane prep, and also the pretty stuff too, like flower selection and all that. They'll take care of you at OrchidMan Florida. That's ORCHID Man Florida.com. Appreciate it. Look, we got the Ohio State fan. Goj has been tearing it up in the comments. I appreciate you, by the way. He says, I low-level troll in this place, but it's all banter. Should be a great matchup. Go Bucks. Hey, appreciate your support, man, of the show. And obviously, we're not cheering for you in this game, but hopefully it's a healthy game. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, man. I'm fired up for the matchup. And appreciate you spicing up the chat a little bit, Goj. Dan Alden, always appreciate you. Booked yesterday. Sections 245. Rep it. D-Train, section 126, row 15. If anybody wants to fight me, I'll be gladly banned from Jerry's World. JVP October, section 243, man. A lot of people here ready to rock and roll and watch this game. I cannot wait, man. This is so big time. It's such a change from what we've seen recently. And that's why you support Canes Connection. That's why we do the things that we do. Anthony Burke says, I love our chances. Everybody says take deep shots to Jeremiah Smith. Deep shots to Jeremiah Smith. Quarterback has to have time to take those shots. That's going to be the question, man. Is Sane going to have enough time to throw the ball down the field? Miami's defensive backs also have to play the ball. Birdstone, smash that like button. It's free. Shout out to the villains. Shout out to the villains. Saw Streeter at the Texas A&M game, man. He was working on the sideline. So shout out to all the villains and to Street. Goj, 22 years, special ops. Hey, Ben, appreciate your service and everybody who serves, who whatever uniform they wear or whatever colors they wear on Saturdays. We know what colors they're representing. So, man, appreciate all you guys. Bagel Sport says FSU headed to the toilet bowl. They're not even headed to that. The toilet bowl was UF versus FSU. And, we saw how that one turned out. All right, some big news here in terms of portal. To me, the absolute number one player in the portal right now just entered. As far as, I don't know about value, positional value, obviously quarterbacks, defensive linemen have a higher positional value. But if we're talking about the best players in the portal, I think the best player is Caleb Hawkins, the true freshman out of North Texas, jumped in the portal. Look at the accolades. AAC Rookie of the Year, first team all-conference, freshman All-America. He was balling yesterday in the bowl game. 1,800 yards, 29 touchdowns. And it's not just like system or anything like that. This is a really talented dude, 6'2", 200-plus basketball player, long jump state qualifier, 22 in the long jump, also runs 100 meters, 22.15 as a long jump. Also a high jumper. The stats are off the charts, played great defense, was an excellent defensive player in high school. Shawnee, Oklahoma, so small area, about 40 miles out of Oklahoma City. So he didn't have the biggest exposure. But if we're talking about just overall skill set and then the ability to translate that, this to me is an NFL type of back. Got 2 years of eligibility remaining as a true freshman, so he can't go pro until the 29 draft. So he's got the 28 draft. So you're not going to see his name called until 2028 draft at the earliest. So this is someone with a lot of eligibility, college production, long strider, great balance. You saw yesterday, caught a pass in the flats, broke a couple tackles, scored a touchdown. Everybody always talks about Drew Mestamaker, and I understand it. He's a very talented player. We'll see if he follows his coach, Eric Morris, to Oklahoma State. We'll see if Caleb Hawkins follows his coach to Oklahoma State. He's originally from Oklahoma. But I think this is somebody who could be a national type of portal recruit. He could play at any school in the country. If I'm Texas, right? Texas, we know they're fighting for Jaden Baugh. I mean, I hope they win that battle because I'd love Jaden Baugh to leave Florida, make them suffer a little bit. But certainly I think Texas has got to be looking at this guy as a solution for their backfield issues. Really any team that could use a running back. If Michigan wants to replace Justice Haynes, you can go to Caleb Hawkins. Oklahoma, talk about hometown schools. I don't know if he's upset that they didn't recruit him out of high school, but if you're Oklahoma, you badly need that running game to get going. I think he would be a tremendous fit. Alabama, they've recruited a lot of top running backs, but they can use a big-time back. This is, to me, another one that fits very, very well there. In terms of the Miami Hurricanes, which I know is going to be the question people are going to be asking in the comments. Obviously, it's a hurricane show. I don't see a fit just because this is an expensive player, right? If you're going to bring back a Mark Fletcher, keep a Pringle, there's really not money or carries for a guy of this caliber. Now, maybe you say, all right, we'll let those guys go and we'll spend all our budget on this. Yeah, but you also still need a defensive end. You need a quarterback. There's a lot of guys that you might need in the portal. We're going to get to one of those defensive ends here in a second because a very talented one just entered the portal. But yeah, I just in terms of the fit system-wise and talent-wise, 100%, he'd be a dream. He has more speed than people think, and the size, that long striding style. I think he could easily be one of the best backs, if not the best backs in the ACC behind our offensive line. I don't see this being the direction that we're going from a budgeting standpoint. A lot of questions on Jordan Lyle. Jordan Lyle, we'll see what happens. Usually guys that are talented. I think Jordan Lyle is a very talented player, very driven player if he's not playing a lot, which he's not playing a lot right now, you could see him potentially entering the portal. But he was there. He was suited up, ready to go against Texas A&M. Who knows how these playoffs go? You may need a Jordan Lyle, and I've long believed that Jordan Lyle's got a ton of talent, big, good balance, runs hard, has speed, has explosiveness, just a really talented player with a lot of heart, right? So I think he's going to end up being a very good player, whether it's from Miami or someone else. But if you're talking about that running back market, it is going to start and be set by Caleb Hawkins. I really don't think everybody talks about Drew Bestermaker. He's a quarterback. People are not talking enough about this dude. I'm telling you, this guy is an NFL player, size, speed. He'll be one of the top running backs in the country wherever he lands. So a huge, huge addition to the transfer portal. And shout out to Eric Morris from North Texas, now at Oklahoma State. His ability to find talent, when you talk about Bestermaker, this dude, true freshman, like no star player, unbelievable. And also just a evaluation lesson. When you look at Caleb Hawkins, you say, okay, he is a 3-star player. 247 actually did a pretty good job evaluating. I'm surprised he ended up in North Texas. 247 was the one that kind of called him out as a good player because they had him as the number 38 running back, whereas the composite had him as 154th. So shout out to 247 for catching this one. This was a good pickup, but as far as like their ranking, feather in their cap. But yeah, you look at these are trying to think back to what lessons you take from this evaluation to take to high school recruiting. 22 and one half inch long jump as a PR, 6-foot high jump, great stats, played basketball, played both ways on offense and defense in high school, and then had this natural length and size, which I don't care where you're playing, that translates. So really, really talented guy, really great evaluation. But I think Miami is going to keep, hopefully there's no injuries that change his calculus. You pray that first and foremost. But I think Miami is going to be focused on the Mark Fletcher, Gerard Pringle. We'll see on Jordan Lyle what happens there. Marty Brown, hope to bring him back as well. Focus on that backfield heading into next season. And I think it's one thing that'll improve that backfield. Number one, obviously more carries for Tony, more carries for Pringle, which you didn't have in the beginning of this year when Miami's running game really struggled to generate explosive plays. But then also you're going to have maybe more of a running threat at quarterback, no matter who it is, more likely than not going to have more running ability than what Carson gave you this year. You're going to lose in some other areas probably. Carson's a top 10 quarterback in the country by any measure, but some of the running stuff I think was going to help the running game when you do have that threat to keep and to run on their own. So we'll watch the running game. There's a lot of pieces that still need to settle in. I think we need more blocking from our tight end position. If we can bring in some pure blockers at tight end will help. That's something we missed from 2024 when we were top 5 in the nation in yards per carry to this year when we dropped to the 80s. But I don't think this is where Miami goes, but a very, very talented player. So shout out to Caleb Hawkins. One portal entry that I think Miami could definitely be involved in big time, Sahir West, the defensive end out of James Madison. Look at these numbers, man. 45 tackles, 7 sacks, 4 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble on the year from Baltimore. So he's a city kid, freshman All-America, Sun Belt freshman of the year, completely dominated in that Sun Belt championship game. Just really explosive, long arms. I think Miami needs a best in class kind of defensive end transfer portal addition. I don't think you need a lot of volume. You have Hayden Lowe, 5-star coming back. I think he's going to be great. Marquise Lightfoot, you see what he's bringing as that outside linebacker, pure pass rusher. Not a defensive end per se, more of like just that stand up, get after it guy who can drop into coverage. You see him spy, does a lot of different things. But Lightfoot's going to play a lot. I mentioned Hayden Lowe, Herbert Scroggins. You saw him play. He was on that last drive against Texas A&M, the freshman from Savannah, Georgia. So he's really coming into his own. He's in that 255, 260 range. Powerful defensive end, plays hard, really easy to coach. So you have guys at this position. You brought in some really talented pass rushers in Ashari Charles and D'Anthony Lafayette. So there's more than I haven't even mentioned yet. But I think with Armando Blunt moving to defensive tackle, most likely, he's been playing mostly there for the second half of the season. You lose Ruben Bain, you lose Akeem Messidor, crucial guys on your team. Yes, a Hayden Lowe will elevate, a Herbert Scroggins, Lightfoot, all these guys. But I think you need another just impactful, dominant, know what you're going to get type of player They should be easy to get in the portal. They're not cheap to get, but they should be easier to get in the portal considering you can sell the success of Bane and Messidor, Jason Taylor, all the things that are facts. You could just sell facts to a portal defensive end, say, this is what you want. We can deliver this to you as far as role, as far as projected performance, etc. So if I'm Sahir West from Baltimore City, I mean, I lived in Baltimore. It's a big city, obviously. Miami's a lot nicer than Baltimore, but it's going to be a lot more familiar than maybe some of these college towns coming down to Miami. So I see this, if you're talking about big ticket items, and there's only so many big ticket items because this guy's going to have interest from everybody in the country. A young pass rushing defensive end with multiple years of eligibility and length. This guy is going to be highly, highly touted, highly regarded. All the big schools are going to be after him. You have to allocate budget. We know quarterback's going to be one of those big ticket items in the portal. I think this would be another potential big ticket item in the portal. I would focus my energy, if I'm Miami, on those two positions. Assuming Markel Bell's that you're able to retain him, which would not be cheap, which I think he will come back. Obviously, he'll come back to Miami unless he goes pro. We'll see how his stock rises or doesn't throughout the rest of these playoffs. I think right now I'd say he's more likely to come back, but you just got to see how the whole thing plays out. He'll obviously take a huge bit of that budget. If he doesn't, you have to use budget to replace him. But if he comes back, Moten comes back at defensive tackle. Again, I would expect that, but the playoffs aren't over. Those are two guys that you're paying them a lot because they're hard to replace in the portal. The rest of the budget, I think, we talk about retention portal guys, like these big ticket items. Quarterback, defensive end. That's where I'm focused on if I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. And this right here is the best defensive end available right now in the market. So let's see. Just again, it's early. He just jumped in, but this is not like an unexpected portal entry. I think a lot of people around the country expected Sahir West to jump in the portal. Of course, his coach went to UCLA. So a lot of people are projecting maybe West to go out west to UCLA, but he's a East Coast guy. So it's not like it's necessarily a natural geographic fit. Of course, he could follow his old coach, but he's a guy that's going to have opportunities to go anywhere. So I wouldn't say that's a given with Sahir West. And I think you're going to see all the top programs, SEC, Big Ten, and Miami, circle around a Sahir West and trying to bring him in because he's such a hot commodity. Dylan Stewart, you saw returning to South Carolina. So that was a potential domino in the defensive end class. This is the one. I would circle this one. Again, I don't know where we were at. It's still very early in this process. The portal hasn't even officially opened yet, but this just seems like a fit for what Miami is trying to get done at defensive end. And just like they're able to pitch to DJ Jacobs, the number one defensive end in the country at high school, looking like he may be a Miami Hurricane. Sahir West, the number one defensive end in the portal. Let's see if Miami can use the same pitch on him, because I think he would be a difference-making player potentially for the Canes. And if you look at the defensive line, if you get a Sahir West, now you have Sahir West and Hayden Lowe. Marquise Lightfoot doing what he does at pass rushing and other things. Great motor, great athletic ability. Had a really good game against Texas A&M. Herbert Scroggins being that reliable, hardworking, ascendant player, similar to Messidor in a lot of ways to me. Then defensive tackle, Justice Scott, potential first rounder. Ahmad Moten skyrocketing up the charts. Armando Blunt terrorizing as a pass rusher these last couple weeks. You saw him on the the interception in the end zone to end the game. He also had a roughing the passer, which really wasn't a roughing the passer. It was a great pass rush. Dante Simpson, who's done a nice job, plus Keyshawn Stansel, some of the other incoming guys. That room at defensive line is looking like it will maintain the elite level that it has right now. I think Sahir West, not him in particular, because there may be other guys that enter, but right now he's the one that to me allows you to keep that high level after losing the best defensive ends in the country with Bane and Messidor going on to the pros. So keep an eye on that potential portal addition. I know you're always keeping an eye on the best Cuban food on the planet at Islas Canarias. The number one spot for Cuban cuisine all the way back to 1977, man. And I went there this past week. Planning on going there this week before I head out to Texas. Just an unbelievable menu there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. 7 different types of croquetas, tostones, sandwiches, handhelds, cubaritos, salads, shakes. juices, anything that you want, they have at East Las Canarias Cuban Express, the #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, right there in the Dayland Mall dining pavilion. What else we got going on here in the comments? Street Denson in the portal, wanted him bad out of high school. That's one to keep an eye on. Defensive back, really like a nickel run stuffer. I don't know if he has the coverage ability of Keontae Scott. Maybe he does, and he just hasn't been coached up in that way. Will Harris, very familiar with him from Florida, but certainly brings a lot of the run stopping and quickness in the box and the instincts that you see from Keontae. Yeah, shout out to the Andrade family always. Kyle's watching the Sky Cam of that Texas A&M game, seeing those young defensive line do work. Future's bright there, but I do think it's to hear West add him to the mix, and I think you're really improving that room. Chef says Carson's uniform will still be clean come third quarter. When Carson is clean, he is mean. Hollywood Arsenal asking the latest on McConaughey, Malik Bryant, and Pickett. Malik Bryant's been hurt. McConaughey has been a little banged up at different times. I think it's slowed down his progression after a really great start to his career in camp in spring and fall camp. But he's been injured, so I think that's why he played really, really early. You saw him, he played in the Florida game in like meaningful snaps, talk about in 2024. I think injuries have slowed him down since then, but still have hopes for him. Big player. I like his motor and his length. Booker Pickett, you've seen him play. He's played some meaningful snaps this year. He's battling Lightfoot, so I think that's really where it's been. Just Lightfoot is ahead of him right now, and Lightfoot's a really, really talented player. So that's why he's been, not struggling to see the field because he's played, but it's competition, and Marquise Lightfoot as that stand-up, quick, long but skinnier defensive end linebacker hybrid. He's been controlling that spot. If you want to control let's see what we got here. What do we got here? What do we got here? Oh, sorry. Mr. Lexiani says, please tell me you saw the video of the Buckeyes podcast reacting to you guys and Amon. I didn't see the actual video. I heard about it. So, I mean, fair play to those guys. But yeah, I didn't see that one. I heard some podcaster did a video to Amon saying he liked the matchup with the Buckeyes. I mean, that's their right. I'm glad for the free publicity. I can't say I watch too many Buckeye podcasts. Maybe I should just for intel, but I don't really care. So, good for those guys. But yeah, I haven't watched too many Buckeye podcasts. But I'm glad they're watching us. Joey Kane says they are sleeping on us bad. Yeah, they are in some respects, but they deserve to be cocky. They've been playing great, but cockiness leads to vulnerability. Yeah, Martin Dubé says, if you watch a lot of OSU content, you think Carson Beck's the 136th quarterback in college football. Yeah, top 10 in passer rating, 35-5. Let's see what it looks like in the Cotton Bowl. I think Carson Beck's got a lot of people to shut up, and I think he is going to be able to shut up a lot of people. Last bit of news here on the show. Taylor Edwards, who was right there at the game. I was next to him for a bit, so it was up to him there at the Texas A&M Miami game. That was his last hurrah with Miami because he is now going to Florida State as executive director of football management. Previously at South Carolina. Didn't know him great, knew him a little bit. A good guy, seemed like. Certainly knows what he's talking about. South Carolina, you see the talent level there, and he had played a big role in. I think with Miami, you had a situation where there was already a pretty strong recruiting department, and ultimately it just wasn't able to, I don't say fit in because that's too negative a connotation, but it was just there was not much room, right? You had a lot of guys doing a lot of good work in that room already. So I think maybe he wants a bigger role at Florida State, which is lame duck coach. I mean, the guy's gone in a year, so it's not necessarily the most appealing job, but I think at least gives him a chance to maybe, because the department is so much further behind where Miami's is, he has more of a chance to make an impact there, because FSU's personnel has been an abject disaster. High school, portal, you name it. It's been a complete disgrace for the past couple of years, whereas Miami, I mean, it's functioning at a pretty high level. I think you guys saw that. Look at all the hits in this last recruiting class. Look at all the hits in the portal. Look at that level of talent on the team. Look at, and we were talking about maybe the number 1 and number 2 players in the country committed next year for 27. So I just think if he goes to a worse department, which is Florida State, he could make more of an impact and have more of a role. So I wouldn't read anything into it. It's not like FSU stealing somebody from Miami. But at the same time, I think Taylor Edwards does a good job, and his talent is going to do great for FSU. I think the problem is much bigger than a personnel guy. They're just a complete disaster. But for him, at least he has a chance to do more, have more of a role. I don't know if he gets a raise. I don't know those specifics, but I think that's more what you're talking about with Taylor Edwards going to Florida State, is just leaving. It's like when you see in the portal somebody leave a loaded team to go to a team that has nobody just so they could play more. I think you're seeing the same kind of thing from a front office standpoint with Taylor Edwards. He is leaving a loaded Miami recruiting department, which, again, I'm going to repeat, top 8 team in the country right now, at least. Certainly, I think roster-wise, you're talking about top 5 type roster. Incredible hit rate in that 2025 class with 2 freshmen All-Americans, maybe the 2 best freshmen in the country with Malachi Tony and Bryce Fitzgerald, plenty more. Portal class with hit after hit, Jacoby Thomas, Keontae Scott, Zechariah Poyser, the corners, Mohamed Toure, David Blay. You just go down the line. It's just on defense. I'm sure I'm leaving some people out. James Brockermeyer doing a nice job at center for the Canes. CJ Daniels, great pickup. Keelan Marion really performing well. Marty Brown helping us win a lot of games. So, I mean, this was a very, very good. Carter Davis as a kickoff guy that's now, I know he had the tough game in the win, but he was great all year. Great on kickoffs all year as well. So this was a very, very, very strong season for Miami's personnel department and the season before. So I think it's just an operation that's operating at a very high level with a lot of people involved. And I think Taylor, by all accounts, talented, does a great job, just wanted a bigger role. And I think Florida State, if you look at Florida State, their 5 stars have been busting. I mean, pretty much uniformly. Like every big recruit they've signed has been completely terrible. Not just disappointing, but like useless. They have not gotten any production at all. I mean, let me pull up some of the Florida State's commitments just so we can laugh a little bit at how bad they are, which, we do often on this show, but it's hard to do it enough. So I'm going back to 2023. This is the Mawanoa Bain year for the Canes, just to kind of let's just compare apples to apples. So 2023 is when Miami signed Bain, Miami signed Mawanoa, Miami signed Mark Fletcher, really the skeleton of this playoff team. These are their highest rated recruits at FSU that year. Hakeem Williams, 5-star, complete disaster for him, didn't do anything. Lucas Simmons, offensive tackle, still haven't seen him do anything. Conrad Hussey, he's gone. Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's the top of their class. They're the 16th ranked class in the country. Not a lot of big recruits. 2024, this is their 11th ranked class. This is one of their best high school recruiting classes on paper. But then you look at it, Luke Kromenhoek, quarterback, complete disaster, gone. Charles Lester hasn't done anything. Jamari Howard from Norland, corner, hasn't done anything. Kai Bates, I believe he's also in the portal. Manasseh Itete, offensive lineman from California, nothing. Cam Davis in the portal. I mean, these are guys who are all gone. Landon Thomas, their big tight end, gone. Elijah Moore, 4-star out of Maryland, gone. I'm missing some transfers, but these are their top players in the country that have left. Look at 2025. About high rank recruits. They're not landing a lot of them, but the ones they land are terrible. Kevin Wynn at defensive tackle last year. I guess he's okay. I haven't seen him play too much. Chroma looks like a pretty good player. Jesse Harold, I believe, has already left. Mario Nash, I believe, has already left. Zay Thomas hasn't played. Javen Boggs, who was supposed to be their star receiver, already left. And in the portal, ever since that haul with Jared Verse and Fisk and all those guys, has been terrible. So, I mean, again, I know I'm harsh here, but who have they signed out of high school that's any good? for Florida State. They got the Desir twins, looked like they were pretty good hits. Micah Danzy, I like that pickup, fast, not the most polished receiver, but definitely an explosive player. But other than that, there's really not much on this roster that you would want at all. Then you look at transfers out of Florida State. Jabril Rawls, their nickel, who's probably their best defensive player, he's gone. Randy Pittman, the tight end, who's one of their best offensive players, he's gone. We'll see if Deuce Robinson sticks around and goes to the pros. I'm guessing he might be waiting to see what happens at quarterback. It's been bad. FSU has 22 players entering the portal. Let's see if I can find a full list. I know it's hard. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at their portal list. How about this? Here's FSU's outgoing transfers. Javen Boggs. Again, they thought this guy was going to be a stud for him. Gone. James Williams, the transfer from Nebraska. They thought he was going to be great. Gone. Brock Glenn. Didn't he start that ACC championship game for him? Gone. Elijah Moore. He was a 4-star as a high school recruit. All these guys, their rankings go down. Gone. Landon Thomas, tight end, 4-star. His rankings gone down. Gone. Cam Davis, another one. These were guys that were highly ranked guys coming in, poorly ranked coming out. But they have some pretty good portals players as far as like guys that were starters on their team outgoing. Omar Graham's a 91 ranked portal player, 4-star linebacker originally from Broward County. He'll be a highly ranked transfer to somebody, but he's outgoing from the Knowles. Jabril Rawls, 94 ranked. That's a high portal ranking. That's like an NFL day 2 almost portal ranking. 4-star player in the portal. He's gone. So like the players going out, look at Edwin Joseph, who played a lot for Florida State this year from Broward County. He was a tough recruiting loss to the Canes. 91 ranked portal player. 91 grade in the portal, I should say. 4-star portal player and defensive back, gone. So they're losing some talented guys. Yeah, Mardo Nash, L.A. Jesse Harrell. These are stars of their recruiting class that just happened. And they're already gone. So not only are their high school guys terrible, like in terms of like the guys that are highly rated have been bust. They're not landing highly ranked classes to begin with. Then their players that they have that are good on their current team are leaving. And then there's nothing incoming. So I don't know what to say. Best of luck to Taylor because I think he's good and he'll help them. Hopefully he gets paid. Hopefully he's on a big 1-year contract because that thing is getting shaken up in a year. But that's basically my thoughts on all that stuff. Real quick, for all you guys getting ready for the Cotton Bowl, just whether you're watching in your house or you're going there, I know a lot of people in the comments are going there. Check out the Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off your first item. It could be Cotton Bowl gear, could be just general playoff gear, the Texas A&M game. You could relive that, or just hoodies. It's going to be a little cold. You might want some of that stuff. Jackets, anything you need, whether you're watching from home or going to the game. MiamiHTS.com, promo code INSIGHT20, or you go to the store right across the street from the Thesis Hotel. Use promo code INSIGHT20. Just at CanesInSight, they will know what to do. Over 3,200 on. Again, appreciate everybody's support. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Every day, man, we are rocking and rolling. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock with Big Pete. Like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.